Casper, the friendly ghost, the friendliest ghost you know. Though grown-ups might look at him with fright, the children all love him so. He always says hello, and he's really glad to meet you, wherever he may go.
Okay. Welcome back to Maritime Morning. I don't... Okay. Casper the Friendly Ghost. Thanks very much. Welcome to the Halloween edition of Maritime Morning. We're going to actually get serious here for a moment about the paranormal. There is a group in Fredericton called P.R.O.F, the Paranormal Researchers of Fredericton, who do this work. They're a non-profit group. They volunteer their time researching and documenting paranormal phenomena and other metaphysical activities by investigating in both residences and commercial properties throughout New Brunswick and the Maritimes. Marvin Nash is the co-founder of P.R.O.F. Is it called P.R.O.F, Marvin?
Yeah. We shorten it down to P.R.O.F usually.
Okay, P.R.O.F. And he joins me on the phone this morning from Fredericton. Good morning.
Good morning.
I will admit to you, straight up, off the top, I'm very skeptical. I've never been one who believes in ghosts or paranormal activity. Now, my son went to see Paranormal Activity 3 at the theater the other day and hasn't slept well for the last week. But... I suppose that is at the root of some of my skepticism about all of this. But how did you find yourself getting involved in this sort of activity?
Well, mainly it was just a case of curiosity. Probably the same feeling or idea that drove your son to get the bejesus scared out of him at a movie. I'm very curious about the paranormal, spirits, ghosts, all that type of thing. So I just found a group of like-minded individuals on the net once, and kind of teamed up with them, and through various different groups, it all boiled down to me and Aaron Bond forming P.R.O.F in 2009, and together we've kind of been collecting people and stories and trying to see either way what's the deal with the paranormal in the area. Yeah,
you seem like a pretty normal guy, and I presume that you consider yourself quite sane. But what is it? Have you found what you would consider to be definitive evidence of paranormal activity in the work that you've done? Quite
honestly, no. And the flashlight experiment that you were talking about before, we don't necessarily consider that proof. That was just an experiment that we did that seemed to show some sort of evidence, or not necessarily evidence, but it resulted in data that we collected. Okay, explain. I know I was being a little flippant about it, but you did this experiment. Tell me what it was that you did and what it was that you were trying to achieve with the experiment. Okay, with the flashlight experiment, it's one experiment that people do when they expect that they're going to encounter something, and given the nature of the tales and the stories that we've had from the people at the community kitchen, we assumed that this was going to be something that should yield results. Of course, we also expected to capture something on video, but that didn't happen. But what we do is we set up at least two flashlights and preferably the mag lights, because you have to twist those to go on as opposed to a button that has to be pushed. It's just easier allegedly for a ghost to turn something than it is for that, the pressure that's needed to turn on the button. So you turn those so they can be switched on and off, and you basically ask questions. You stage a series of questions that require yes or no answers, and you try to give them time to respond to each question. Did you feel kind of silly talking to a flashlight? Hey, if I'm not talking to a flashlight, I'm talking to nothing at all. Right? So, I understand. You can see in a lot of these shows, like Ghost Hunters and whatnot, people actually go into rooms with nothing but a recorder and ask out loud, who are you, what is your name, without having any knowledge of whether or not they're talking to anybody or anything. So at least I get a flashlight, right?
Is there a predominance or some sort of are there more ghosts, or do people believe that there are more ghosts hanging around in New Brunswick? And I think Fredericton, it's one of those cities that has a lot of history and old houses and all the things that are sort of associated with that kind of thing. Is there a feeling that there's more stuff to kind of hunt out in Fredericton than there would be in other areas?
Well, Fredericton, I guess the big thing is the historical significance of the towns and how far their roots go back. Now, that's not necessarily a determining factor as to whether or not there's going to be something paranormal, but it certainly helps to have architecture dating back to the 1800s, and some areas being settled as early as the 1750s. Not in Fredericton and New Brunswick as a whole, and even in Nova Scotia, there is so much history with early settlements, things that have happened over the years. I can just imagine what you could get into with the Nova Scotia explosion or the Halifax explosion. That something so violent that happened so quickly. There's just so many things that can be attributed to the paranormal. Violent acts, historical battles, a massacre, all those sort of things tend to lend a little bit more to the notion that something must still reside there.
One of the things that I think is of value in terms of what you're doing and is that when people are dealing with issues that they feel have some sort of paranormal significance, when you go in and you do an investigation and you can't find anything that you can confirm, does that provide any level of comfort to people in different houses? Now, you were talking about this community kitchen. What precipitated that investigation?
Well, that investigation was brought onto us by two sources. One was Fred FM here in Fredericton. They had some dealings with George Pierce last Halloween, and they kind of introduced us to George, and George had been explaining to people that there were some sightings of things that didn't seem quite natural. One was a ghost of an old nurse in the Victorian days. Another was
did somebody actually see it?
Yes, actually, the apparition has been spotted several times, both in the community kitchen area and at the old Victoria General Hospital. And also the personal experiences and things that have been caught on their security camera. For example, soup cans flying off the shelves, not just dropping off the shelves, but literally flying across the hallway from a shelf, indicating that they were flung at some velocity. People seeing things out of the corner of their eye, hearing things, boxes of things falling over for no reason that were piled safely. There's all sorts of little things that indicated to them that there must be something that's happening there. That's and it being the former city morgue certainly does help too.
So you went in to do this investigation, and you set up this flashlight, and you asked you asked some questions, and it sort of flickered on and off, and that kind of stuff. What did you derive from that data that you collected?
Well, the first thing, upon completion of the first test, like this was run a few times, we after the first test, we immediately went into troubleshoot mode and tried to disprove whatever we had just witnessed. And we did things like looking at the flashlight, trying the flashlight just to sit there by itself and make sure it didn't turn on and off by itself, going back into the area, leaving the flashlight there, and it not turning back on and off by itself, going to other areas of the place that weren't supposed to have any sort of ghostly encounters, and trying the same idea and it not happening. Basically troubleshooting the process, and then finally going back to the same place and conducting an experiment again and having results again.
Mm.
And we tried to disprove that, or we tried to prove that, number one, the flashlight was fine. There wasn't any fault in the area or what we were doing, and then we tried to replicate the results, in which we did.
And
the flashlight turns on and off when we ask it to, and when we ask it questions and ask it to turn off for no, or stay on for yes.
So how did you feel walking away from that? Did you feel that there was some kind of a presence or an entity that was controlling the mag light?
Well, like you, I believe it or not, I'm a skeptic. I may get shunned for saying this, but I require real, solid, hard evidence. And to me, this kind of falls into the quasi maybe. This could be run by something that is not within the normal, and therefore must be considered paranormal.
I guess we sometimes make assumptions about what is paranormal. I mean, a lot of things just sort of border on we don't have an explanation for it. So therefore we infer an explanation. Now, I don't know if that's how you guys operate, but very often what we see is that because soup cans fly off the off the shelf, and I never quite understood why ghosts have this propensity for flinging things around anyway, if they're to show their existence. But that we tend to attribute instances or things that we see to perhaps things that may not be really accurate. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, back in the 50s and 40s, anytime anybody saw a bright light in the sky, it was immediately considered a UFO. Especially down in the New Mexico area, Las Vegas area, where we have Area 51, where there were all sorts of airplane experiments going on, unbeknownst to the people around there who really thought that they were being visited by aliens. In most of the time, there is a rational, logical explanation. The reason why, Grandma Betty doesn't want to go downstairs because she has that feeling of sickness or ill feeling every time she spends any time down there is because her furnace is being vented into the basement. It's a result of carbon monoxide poisoning, or an exposed electrical box, which is giving out electromagnetic fields that are way too high and actually cause paranoia feelings. So, if you have bare wires or high EMF readings, and this can happen in heated floors as well. Our EMF readers spike when heated floors go on. So that means there's an EMF field being generated there that is very high, and in most cases that produces this feeling of dread or paranoia that you're being watched. And the layman might think, "Oh my God, I am being watched. There must be a ghost here."
So you do, going back to my original question, was that you do actually can actually provide some comfort for people who are experiencing these things. I just want to take a quick little break here. I have a commercial break. I want to come back and talk about the process that if somebody did have some feelings of dread in their basement or their attic where that strange doll is sitting in the corner, what you would actually do in terms of dealing with it. Sound fair?
Sounds great.
Okay. We're talking this morning with Marvin Nash. He's the co-founder of Paranormal Researchers of Fredericton. Back in a moment on Maritime Morning.
Maritime Morning with Jordi Morgan will